for what's mine.
My name is Clara Whitmore, and this is the story of how the people I loved the most, my own parents, taught me the most painful lesson of my life. That sometimes blood isn't family, and betrayal wears the face of those who raised you. I grew up in a wealthy family, the Whitmores, owners of a century-old furniture empire in Boston. We lived in a mansion filled with polished wood, chandeliers, and secrets. My father, Richard Whitmore, was a man of power and pride. My mother, Evelyn, lived for appearances. And then there was my brother, Ethan, their golden child, the son who could do no wrong. From childhood, I was the shadow in their world of light. I was quiet, studious, and independent, qualities my parents called coldness. Ethan, on the other hand, was loud, charming, and entitled. He crashed cars, failed classes, and still somehow received applause. I learned early that love in our home was not given, it was earned, and the rules were never fair. When I was 17, my father told me, "You're the responsible one, Clara. You'll understand when Ethan takes over the business." I laughed, thinking he was joking. I was top of my class, interning at the company already, while Ethan partied in Miami. But little did I know, those words were the first stone in the wall they were building to keep me out. If you're still watching, tell me in the comments. Where are you watching from? I love knowing where my viewers are tuning in from around the world. And if you enjoy stories of justice, betrayal, and sweet revenge, make sure to hit that subscribe button, like this video, and turn on notifications. Because trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. Years passed. I graduated from Harvard with honors and returned home full of hope. I wanted to help expand the company, bring in modern designs, reach global markets. I worked tirelessly, 12 hours a day, no salary, just a promise of one day this will all be yours too. I believed them. I believed every word. Until the day my father called a family meeting. It was a crisp autumn evening. The golden leaves outside shimmered through the tall windows of our dining room. My parents sat at the long mahogany table, serious but calm. Ethan leaned back in his chair smirking. Something in my gut told me this wasn't good. My father cleared his throat. "Clara," he said, "your mother and I have made some decisions about the future of the company." I smiled nervously. "Okay, what kind of decisions?" He exchanged a glance with my mother, who looked everywhere but at me. "Ethan will be the new CEO of Whitmore Furnishings," he said. "And we've transferred the controlling shares to him." For a moment, I couldn't speak. My heartbeat echoed in my ears. "You what?" I whispered. My mother sighed. "You're smart, darling, but Ethan needs this more. You'll find your own path, maybe start a small design studio. We'll support you." Support me? With my inheritance? With the company I'd built side by side with them? I stood up, trembling, trying to hold my voice steady. "You gave him everything. Everything I worked for. Everything Grandpa built for both of us." Ethan chuckled. "Oh, come on, Clara, don't make this dramatic. It's just business." "No," I said. "It's betrayal." I walked out that night and never went back. For months, I lived in a tiny apartment downtown. No servants, no luxury, just silence and my thoughts. My parents didn't call. My brother sent me a single text. "You'll thank me later." That was the moment I decided, if they wanted Ethan to be the star, I'd become the storm. I took a job at a small design startup. I started from scratch, learning the side of business my father never let me see. Marketing, investment, risk. I slept 4 hours a night and spent the rest building contacts, creating products, studying every weak spot in my family's empire. It wasn't revenge yet. It was survival. But fate has a funny way of circling back. 3 years later, I saw an article in Business Weekly. Whitmore Furnishings faces bankruptcy after years of mismanagement. And right beneath that headline, a photo of Ethan, pale and defeated. My father's empire was collapsing under his own son's arrogance. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine and stared at the city lights outside my window. I whispered to myself, this is my moment. Over the next months, I built my own company, Clara Designs, modern, minimal, powerful. I hired the best minds from collapsing firms, including some of my father's own employees who'd been laid off. We launched a new collection that went viral. My designs appeared in magazines, hotel lobbies, and global exhibitions. Within a year, we were worth millions. Then came the sweetest part. Through a private equity group, I quietly began buying shares of Whitmore Furnishings. Piece by piece, I took control, until one morning I received an email confirming the final acquisition. I was now the majority owner of my parents' company, the same company they had stolen from me. The following evening, I received an invitation, a formal dinner at the mansion to discuss business opportunities. I accepted. As I drove through the familiar gates, memories flooded back, the laughter, the rejection, the tears. I parked outside the house and saw the nameplate still shining at the entrance, the Whitmores. But after tonight, that nameplate would change. The dinner began politely. My mother smiled awkwardly, my father's eyes darted between us, and Ethan tried to act confident. They had no idea. Finally, my father asked, "So Clara, why did you want to meet?" I smiled. "Because I wanted to give you the courtesy of hearing it from me before you read it in the papers." "Hearing what?" he asked, frowning. I leaned forward and said calmly, "I just bought Whitmore Furnishings. Effective immediately, I'm your new CEO." Silence. Forks froze midair. My mother's face drained of color. Ethan's mouth fell open. And then I smiled, not out of joy, but peace. For a few seconds, no one spoke. The silence was so heavy you could hear the faint ticking of the grandfather clock in the corner. My father blinked as if trying to process the words, his lips parting, then closing again. My mother's eyes glistened with confusion. Ethan leaned forward, his face hardening with disbelief. "You're lying," he said. "You can't buy what you don't have." I leaned back, calm as ever, sipping my wine. "You'd be surprised what hard work and patience can do, Ethan. While you were burning through Dad's legacy, I was building mine." My father's tone turned sharp. "This is nonsense. You don't have the capital to buy Whitmore Furnishings. It's a multi-million-dollar company." "Was," I corrected him. "It was a multi-million-dollar company. Before mismanagement, scandal, and unpaid taxes nearly dragged it into bankruptcy. But lucky for you, someone saw potential where others saw failure. So I made the offer. And your shareholders, the ones you ignored for years, were happy to accept." My mother whispered, "Clara, why would you do this?" "Because," I said quietly, "you taught me that family means nothing in business. I just followed your rule book." The words hung in the air like a blade. Ethan slammed his hand on the table. "You can't do this. You're not capable of running this company. You never were." I stood, my voice steady. "I already am. And the board approved it this morning." His face twisted in rage. "You've always been jealous, Clara. Ever since we were kids." I took a slow step toward him. "Jealous? Of what? Of your laziness? Your arrogance? You didn't earn a single thing in your life, Ethan. You just took what was handed to you." I looked at my parents, their eyes avoiding mine. "And you let him. You told me to be strong, to be disciplined, to work hard. I did all that. And what did you reward? His failures." My mother's voice trembled. "We only wanted to protect him. He's not as strong as me," I cut in. "Yes, I know. You didn't protect him. You destroyed him by never letting him face consequences." There was silence again. You could feel decades of resentment finally surfacing, unfiltered. I took a deep breath and continued. "Tomorrow morning, all of you will receive your official letters. The company will move under new management. I'll keep the legacy name for the employees who deserve it, but not for us. You'll be compensated fairly, but your control ends tonight." My father's face was pale now. "Clara, this isn't how family behaves." I looked him dead in the eyes. "Neither is betrayal, Dad." For the first time in my life, I saw fear in his expression. Not because I was powerful, but because he realized he had created me. I turned to leave, but my mother's trembling voice stopped me. "Clara, wait, please." I hesitated at the door. "Yes, Mother?" Tears streamed down her face. "You've made your point. But this isn't you. You're not cruel." I smiled softly. "No, I'm not cruel. I'm just done being the one you sacrifice." Then I walked out. The following week, the media exploded with headlines. Whitmore Furnishings under new leadership. Daughter of founder takes over after family collapse. From betrayal to billionaire, Clara Whitmore's silent takeover. Interviews, articles, and news channels wanted my story, but I stayed silent. I didn't want fame. I wanted peace. At the office, things changed quickly. Employees who had been ignored for years were finally heard. Wages improved, designs modernized, and for the first time, the company felt alive. I saw gratitude in their eyes, something I never saw in my own family. Ethan tried to fight back. He filed a legal claim, accusing me of manipulation and fraud. But the documents spoke for themselves. Every transaction was clean, every share purchase legitimate. The court dismissed his claim within weeks. I thought I'd feel satisfied watching him fail, but instead I felt nothing. Revenge doesn't heal wounds, it only makes the scar shine brighter. One evening, as I sat in my new office, my father's old office, I found myself staring at a framed photo on the shelf. It was of us, Mom, Dad, Ethan, and me, taken years ago at the company's 50th anniversary. We looked happy. I almost smiled before I realized how fake that happiness had been. I picked up the photo and placed it face down. Just then, my secretary knocked gently on the door. "Miss Whitmore, there's someone here to see you." "Who is it?" She hesitated. "Your mother." For a long moment, I didn't move. Then I nodded. "Send her in." My mother entered slowly, dressed in simple clothes, her face tired and aged beyond her years. The arrogance she once carried was gone. She looked at me, really looked, for the first time in my adult life. "Clara," she said softly, "I know you don't owe us anything, but I came to say, I'm sorry." I didn't respond. I just listened. "You were always the strong one," she continued. "We thought Ethan needed more from us, but we were wrong. We broke something in you when we took away what you deserved." Her voice cracked. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I see it now." For the first time, I saw genuine regret in her eyes. Not the polished, rehearsed apologies of high society, but raw human sorrow. I took a deep breath. "Mom," I said quietly, "I spent years thinking I hated you. But the truth is, I just wanted you to be proud of me." Tears streamed down her cheeks. "I always was, Clara. I just didn't know how to show it." I nodded slowly, then looked away. "Maybe one day I'll believe that." She wiped her eyes, smiled faintly, and turned to leave. Before stepping out, she looked back. "Please don't let this consume you, darling. You've won. Don't lose yourself now." When the door closed behind her, I sat in silence for a long time. Outside my window, the city lights shimmered, symbols of power, ambition, and endless competition. But inside, I felt a small flicker of something else, something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. For the first time, I realized revenge wasn't about destroying others. It was about reclaiming the parts of yourself they tried to take away. If you're still here watching, let me know in the comments. Do you believe people like Clara were right to take revenge, or should she have walked away? Don't forget to subscribe, because in the next story, you'll witness a betrayal even colder, and a revenge far more satisfying. A month passed since my mother's visit. Life at the company moved fast, and success came faster than I could process. Every morning I arrived early, long before the staff. I liked the silence of the building before it came alive, the sound of my heels echoing across marble floors that once belonged to someone else's world. I often stopped by the lobby, where the golden company name gleamed under soft lights. Whitmore Designs, REBORN. The last word, reborn, wasn't just for branding. It was a symbol. A quiet declaration that I had survived, rebuilt, and reclaimed. But deep down, the glow of victory began to fade. Success is loud when you're chasing it, but once you have it, the silence can be deafening. One late evening, as rain whispered against the windows, I sat in my office reviewing reports when a knock came at the door. Without looking up, I said, "Come in." It was Ethan. He looked different. Thinner, eyes hollow, arrogance replaced by something closer to desperation. He closed the door slowly behind him and stood there in silence for a moment. "Clara," he began, his voice unsteady, "I know I'm probably the last person you want to see." "You're right about that," I replied, not lifting my gaze from the papers. He exhaled shakily. "I'm not here to argue. I came to say, I'm sorry." That made me look up. "Sorry? For what, Ethan? For stealing everything I worked for, or for laughing while you did it?" He swallowed hard. "For all of it. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't know who I am anymore. I tried to live up to what they wanted, to be the perfect son, but I ruined everything. The company, my life, even my family." There was no smugness in his tone this time. just exhaustion. I studied him quietly for a few seconds. He wasn't lying. He looked broken. The brother I once hated now looked like a stranger. I don't know what you want me to say, I said calmly. Nothing, he whispered. I just wanted to tell you that you were right. You were always the one meant to lead. And I was the spoiled fool who thought love meant never being told no. He looked down, tears forming in his eyes. Mom doesn't stop crying. Dad barely speaks. I know I destroyed everything and I deserve this. But please, Clara, don't become like us. I felt a tightness in my chest, not pity, but something heavier. A realization. For years, I had defined myself through revenge. Every success, every headline, every deal, it had all been powered by anger. But sitting there, staring at my defeated brother, I finally understood. Revenge might fill the void, but it never heals it. I stood up and walked to the window, staring at the city lights glowing through the storm. Ethan, I said softly, I don't hate you anymore. I don't hate any of you. But I can't go back to what we were. That family doesn't exist. He nodded, tears falling freely now. I know. But maybe one day we can start something new. Not as business partners, just as people. I turned to him and nodded. Maybe. He left quietly, closing the door behind him. The next morning, I made a decision. At the company board meeting, I announced something no one expected. I've decided to step down as CEO, I said, my voice steady but warm. Gasps filled the room. Effective immediately, I'll remain the majority shareholder, but day-to-day leadership will move to a new executive team. My assistant looked shocked. But Miss Whitmore, the company is thriving under you. I smiled. Exactly. And I want it to keep thriving, without the shadow of my past driving it. This company was born out of revenge. Now, I want it to live for something greater. For creativity, for the people who build it, not the ones who broke it. The room erupted in applause, but I felt an unfamiliar peace, one deeper than victory. That evening, I drove back to the mansion one last time. The air was still, the sky painted in hues of gold and violet. I parked outside and stepped out, looking at the grand structure that had once been a symbol of everything I'd lost. The front door opened. My mother stood there, fragile but smiling faintly. My father sat by the fireplace behind her, staring into the flames. Clara, she said softly, I didn't think you'd ever come back. I didn't think so either, I replied. We stood there in silence for a while, the years between us hanging in the air. Then I said, I came to say goodbye. My mother's eyes filled with tears. You're leaving? Yes, I said. I'm starting something new, in Milan. A design academy for women who've been overlooked, underestimated, or told they weren't enough. I want to give others the chance I had to fight for. Her hand trembled as she reached out and touched mine. You're doing something beautiful, Clara. Your grandfather would be proud. For the first time in a long time, I believed that. I turned toward my father. He didn't speak, but when our eyes met, he gave a small nod, the kind of silent acknowledgement that carried more weight than words. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was something close. As I walked back to my car, I took one last look at the mansion. The house that once symbolized my pain now looked smaller somehow, just bricks and glass, not a fortress anymore. I smiled. Goodbye, Whitmores, I whispered. Hello, peace. Weeks later, I stood on a balcony in Milan, watching the sunset bleed across the horizon. The air was warm, filled with laughter and music from the streets below. A group of young women I had just mentored waved up at me, full of dreams and hope. And for the first time, I didn't feel the urge to look back, because revenge had given me power. But forgiveness had given me freedom. If you made it this far, thank you for watching Clara's story. Tell me in the comments if you were in her shoes, would you have done the same? And if you believe that sometimes revenge can lead to redemption, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, because our next story will take you into a betrayal even deeper, where love and vengeance collide in ways you'll never forget.